Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in June and also like a July TBR of sorts. Kind of just my hopes, my thoughts, what I want to read. We'll see what happens. Alright, let's start. I have my notes down in my lap, so if I keep looking down, that's what I'm doing because some of these books I finished at the start of the month or I don't remember as well, and so I have my notes with all my thoughts and feelings about them. The first book I read this month was Ink Death by Cornelia Funke and translated by Anthea Bell. I rated this book a 4 out of 5 stars because I really enjoyed it. I liked the story. It's the third book in the Ink World series, and I thought it kind of wrapped everything up really nicely in a way that I enjoyed. I didn't rate it 5 stars because it's not like the most amazing thing. I think if I were to rate it when I was in 6th grade, so when I was like 10, when I first was reading the books, I would have rated this 5 stars. This was my favorite book, but a common thread with me and my reading when I was young, I wasn't able to pay as much attention as I am now. And so there were definitely parts of the book that I thought were one way or that I thought existed in the book that either were not in the book at all or were something completely different. It's still my favorite out of the 3 books. If you haven't read the series, I'm not going to tell you what Ink Death is about specifically because that gives away a lot of the plot for Ink Heart and Ink Spell, the first 2 books. It's a middle grade fantasy series about the magic of books. A young girl and her father's a bookbinder. Her and her father go on all these adventures surrounding books and the magic of books and what can happen and good and evil. I liked some of the themes that this book and the series explores. I don't actually know if Cornelia Funke intended to explore these themes, but there's an author in the series who has a lot of trouble with letting go and letting control of his books and his art and what he's done, and I just really think that there is a lot being explored there. It's probably something I'll talk more about because I just have so many thoughts about it. All in all, this was a good wrap-up of the series. I really enjoyed the pacing and the ending. It really felt like you could close the book at the end and be done with the series and just like keep going and wave goodbye and say have a good time. The second book that I finished this month was Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I rated this book 5 stars because I really enjoyed it. This is a story about a time-traveling cafe, or the cafe doesn't time travel, but time travel happens within the cafe. So there's one seat in the cafe where you can time travel at like one specific time each day, but there's all these rules about it. So when you time travel, the present doesn't change. So no matter what you do, it doesn't change. Also, when you time travel, you cannot leave that seat. And then lastly, you can only stay as long as the coffee is still warm. So you have to leave before the coffee gets cold. I mentioned this to, I think, my sister, and she was like, yeah, but that's like none time. Like coffee gets cold so fast. And I think that's kind of the point. So I really liked this premise because they seemed like to be a lot of really constraining rules. Like it doesn't seem like it's even worth it to go back in the past or time travel because you can only be there for a really short amount of time. You can only be in that specific cafe in that specific seat, and you can only do it at a specific time of day when a ghost leaves the seat and it's vacant for you. So it's like, I was really intrigued by that. Like, what are they going to do with that? Because it seems pointless. And that's essentially what the book explores. More specifically, it explores relationships. So there's 4 sections, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, not in the correct order. We have mother and child, sisters, we have lovers, and husband and wife. I really liked this book. I noticed from some of the Goodreads reviews that this does have really mixed reviews, and I think the large points of why I liked it or why other people didn't like it. It's very simple writing. A lot of things are reiterated over and over again, which I really like, especially with this episodic type story where I could listen to one story one day and then come back to it a few days or a week later. I might not remember everything, or I need that kind of like getting back into it moment. And so I'm fine with the repetition. I thought it was great. And it also seemed a lot of what the characters did, or you know, the environment or situations seemed to fit with Japanese cultural norms that I'm aware of from people that I know and what I've learned about that. So I found it easy to kind of go along with them, because I was like, that's just what they're doing and that's just who they are and that's their belief system and whatnot. But I could tell from some of the reviews that a lot of those don't really line up with like Western ideals or Western storyline. If you're expecting them to follow some Western norms of what like independent Western characters would do, this is probably not going to be the book for you. Also, I found it really heartwarming. I definitely cried multiple times while reading it. I just found it really sweet, and these characters have such like genuine thoughts. And I know everyone kept saying, oh, but they come to the same conclusion at the end of each story, but I really liked that because they each did it in their own way. And then at the end you could look at the culmination of everything and be like, wow. And I feel like it really did give me some new perspective on relationships and life in general. So I'd recommend that if you're into those things. The third book that I read this month was The Prince and the Dressmaker by Wang. This is a graphic novel about a seamstress who makes a wild dress, and this catches the eye of an exclusive client who turns out to be the prince. It's the time of life where the prince's parents are insisting that he find someone to marry. It's making him really uncomfortable, and he's really into fashion, specifically these dresses, and they're so beautiful. Like, I want the dresses from this book. Okay, let me finish talking about the summary. The prince and the seamstress become friends, and they're just trying to navigate what this situation means for them. Specifically the prince, because he's someone in the spotlight, and wearing dresses is not something that men typically do in this story, in this world, in this time period. I really liked the ending. I really liked the book in general. Also, because it's a graphic novel, I get to rave about the art for a second. The art was beautiful. The colors specifically, I could really tell that a color palette was picked out for this book. If it wasn't done intentionally, it happened and I loved it. It was amazing. I really want to read some of Jen's other works because it was just so beautiful. Additionally, the artistic style it felt really loose but genuine, and like, I don't know, it felt very like free but solid. I don't know how to explain it. It felt comforting. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I would really recommend this one, so I'll stop talking about it now. Oh, and if you can't tell, I did rate it 5 out of 5 stars. You know, it's one of those graphic novels that I would love a print of like some of the pages. Like, there are some spreads, I think, that are just one picture on a page, if I remember correctly, and I would buy a print of that and put it on my wall. Absolutely beautiful. The fourth book I read this month was The Hidden Witch by Knox Ostertag. This is the second book in a graphic novel series that Goodreads calls the Witch Boy series. I don't know if it has a different name, I don't know, but the first book is called The Witch Boy, so I think that's why that is what it is. I really liked the first book. There's a young boy named Aster. He lives with his family and they're all like witches, they all have magic, but the boys shapeshift and the girls, they learn magic. But Aster has always wanted to learn magic. He's never been interested in shapeshifting. Long story short, they later describe him as a boy with a witch's spirit, a boy with a witch's soul, one of the two. And so in that way, it's a queer story. They don't label Aster as being trans or non-binary or queer, but it definitely reads that way, to me at least. So this was the second installment. I rated this one 3 stars. I thought it was a really good continuation off the first one. I thought it was interesting. It doesn't really explore entirely the same themes as the first one. This one's more about friendship and in some ways self-love and like finding your own path. So in some ways it's the same. I enjoyed how it explored some other characters, storylines, and life experiences. And there was a new character introduced, which was interesting. You know, it was what it was, and I enjoyed it. You know, I liked it. And now on to what I am hoping to read or finish in July. I'm currently reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I'm currently about 30% of the way done with it, and last night I decided to watch some author interviews with Rebecca. All I can say is it made me even more excited to continue reading. As I was reading it, I could tell that it was based off history. I just did not know her love for history, and after hearing those interviews, I am so interested in finishing this book and the next books. I just started reading Normal People by Sally Rooney the other day, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it yet. We'll see if I finish it or not. It might be one of those books that I spend most of the time being unsure about it, and then I finish it and I'm still just unsure about it. I have a short list of books that I am really looking forward to read this month. They're on hold at my library, so I'm hoping to read them. And right now I'm just really in the mood for some mysteries, some thrillers, some more of that. That's mostly what I have on hold. The first is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This is a pretty classic one. I actually haven't read any Agatha Christie, which I'm surprised at. I know a lot about her as a person. I've consumed a lot of things that are based off of her work. For some reason, I weirdly know a lot about her like detective stories, but I haven't read an actual Agatha Christie book, so this would be my first. I'm very excited. It's about, from what I know, and I don't know that much, it's about a group of people that go to an island, I believe, for some sort of party or gathering or vacation or something, and then the title implies, and then there were none, that they each get picked off one by one until there were none left. The next on my list is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is supposed to be an Agatha Christie-esque novel. I assumed it was following like a similar storyline, and then there were none. But according to what I read on Goodreads in my library account, that is not the case. It's just like a general Agatha Christie-esque novel. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what that's about. It's about a wedding that some people go to, and then someone dies, and then you have to figure out who the killer is. I want to know. I'm interested. Let's find out. The next book on my list is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. This is more of a mystery novel, but there definitely seems to be creepy elements to it. Looking at the front of the book, I'm feeling creeped out already. It's about a young girl who had a family member who worked at this motel some years ago, and the main character goes to work there and gets involved in some of the same mysteries, dangers, and whatnot. So we'll see. The last on my list is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I have heard almost nothing but good things about this book. Everyone seems to really like this. I am interested in romance books, but I'm really only interested in romance books that are not only focused on the romance, if that makes sense. Like, what I hear about this book is it's also focused about the people as main characters, and they have a somewhat healthy relationship. This seems like it will be good. I'm excited. I want to know more. I have a few other books on my list, but I highly doubt I'm going to even get through those first four, just because of the books that I'm already reading, and then a few that I'm thinking about, but I'm not sure about yet. And then of course I have my long list of graphic novels. I have a few checked out from the library now, and a million on my hold shelf. So I will be reading some of those as well. Do you have any books that you're really excited about to read this month? Let me know. Or any books that you're really excited about reading right now, or your favorite book from June. I hope you're well. Have a good day. And I hope that you read a good book. All right, I will talk to you later. Adios. Goodbye.